The United States. The United States is known to have several policies, laws, and changes throughout its history. The one I'm going to be talking about today is something that has to do with the children. Hello, my name is Marisol Zuniga, and today I'm going to be talking about specifically the Head Start Act for my Social Work 2363 Social Welfare Policy course. Now, before we talk about the actual act, we want to describe the policy. So for the policy, we want to talk about the title. Obviously, like I stated right before this slide, I said the Head Start Act. The actual formal name is Improving Head Start for School Readiness Act of 2007. Now, the public law number, what is it? The public law number is actually a specification that has to do with a bill or a legislation that wants to be put through. For the Head Start Act, it's known as 110-134. The next thing we want to talk about is the sponsor and the date. So former President Bush actually signed the act in 2007 in December, but it was actually sponsored by our Representative Dale E. Kidley, and it was actually co-sponsored for about 20 plus more people as well. Now, before the act and why the revision, when we're talking about this, we want to actually talk about the Head Start program in itself and why it was necessary for there to be a new legislation that fell under the program. Now, Head Start began in 1965, and it was designed to help break the cycle of poverty. So what does this mean? So poverty has been around for the beginning of time. But with poverty, what actually happens is that through time, there's different physical needs, financial needs, emotional needs for everything. And so this act was put in place to make sure to fill in those gaps, to ensure the quality for the parents, the children, and for the staff that work with them. Now, what the policy program was designed to do. So what exactly was the Head Start program meant to be, or what was it meant to do? In the United States, about 15.2 million children live in low-income households. In Texas, though, the percentage of working families under 200% of the poverty line is 32.60%. When you think about Texas, you think about how prideful we can be about how great our country is and how great our state is. But again, we do have a higher rate. Based off the Houston area, which is typically the national rate is 29%, Harris County actually falls under 32% of the poverty and social mobility. How has the issue changed over time? So fortunately, based off the Census Bureau, based off different statistics, child poverty was at an all-time low in 2021, which is great and it's wonderful. But the reality is, unfortunately, there are many areas that still lack those everyday fundamental needs. For example, in Texas, we have certain hotspots, specifically, for example, 5th Ward, 3rd Ward, certain areas that are known to have low-income families that are in or under the poverty line. So we're talking specifically about Texas. 1/3 of the Black population and almost 1/3 of the Hispanic population of Texas live in economically distressed community. Now, why is the Head Start Act of 2007 necessary? The fundamental of the Head Start program with the Renewal Act in 2007 is to fill in those gaps that were created with time. Again, the Head Start program in itself began in the 1900s. We're in 2023, and there are different times, there are different generations, different financial needs, different developmental needs that back then weren't as highlighted. So this allows for the improvement in all areas of the program to ensure that all of those involved are making sure they have as much as possible. So in the right lower corner, we actually have an image that shows for Texas the amount of Head Start programs that are around inside the borders. As you can see, there are certain hotspots, again, like I stated beforehand, where there are certain cities, towns that Head Start is needed more than others. Maybe due to rural reasons, maybe due to financial reasons. Again, we want to look at specifically, you can really even tell the area again around Houston, Galveston, you can see a lot of presence of the Head Start. Now, what are the goals of the Act? The goals of the Act are to take steps to improve Head Start. So that's the manifest goal. Take steps to improve Head Start to ensure low-income children arrive at school ready to learn. Manifest goals means that these are missions, goals, statements that whenever this act was put in place, this is what they expected. Now, the latent goals is something you see that happens but maybe wasn't foreseen before. So it was actually able to connect schools due to having events that promote Head Start programs. I actually worked in a Fifth Ward school that had a Head Start program, and they actually were able to collaborate amongst other Head Start programs around the area to ensure that developmentally, physically, that these children were on the same page. Head Start program services. Why and how do they receive it? Right here have some bullets that actually show the requirements or what is needed for you to be able to receive a Head Start program or be in the Head Start program. So low-income families, children in foster care, homeless children, children with families who are already receiving assistance, pregnant women, and those who are actually above the low-income poverty line can actually enroll as well. And it's possible for their child to stay enrolled. So what does this mean? Is, for example, if you are around the area and there's a Head Start program, you can actually sign up a child, and if there's no wait list and you're at the capacity and you've fulfilled that requirement, your child is actually still able to go even though you're not under that poverty guideline. How do you see Head Start making a change? This is a great question to ask, just because there are different implements that are already built within the program that ensure that these children are being cared for and met developmentally, emotionally, physically, and socially. So they make sure to maintain their relationship with the children and the parents, which is a vital component. They actually conduct assessments to ensure that the child is going at a good rate of their learning. They actually offer free meals and health screenings to the children and the parents, and they actually welcome children with disabilities. This is important because you want to make sure that you emphasize the importance of a children with disability is still able to attend school and make sure they are still on the right path. How is Head Start funded? Head Start is actually federally funded. So what does this mean? It means that the government is actually the reason why they are receiving money, have the availability to be able to make sure that they're still enrolling. So what the government does is they have a federal to local funding model. What does this mean? That whenever they actually have a Head Start in a certain area, they actually work with the local area to ensure that their routine, their schedule, it actually goes with the area around. So there's a difference between a downtown area as you're talking about North Texas. Again, different areas, different children, different demographics. The effectiveness of the act. How exactly did this Head Start Act of 2007 change or add to the program? The Head Start Act, what they did is they actually terminated the national reporting system. This is vital because it allowed for things that weren't on paper still be seen and still be emphasized, still be highlighted. For example, social skills, fine motor skills, all those things that you don't see typically on paper for math, for reading, for writing, for verbal, you're actually able to see through socially. And it's very vital for these children who, again, don't have the adequate skills as you were be in comparison to a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old. The second thing is actually it prioritized the expansion of the Indian Head Start. Again, in Native Americans, they're seen as a minority. They're seen as somebody that doesn't really matter in comparison to an Anglo-Saxon, anybody like that. But the Head Start Act of 2007 allowed for 32 new national Indian Head Starts and allowed to maintain 9 of them that were previously already established. This allowed to ensure that the Native American children are still able to have that education, have that developmental that isn't really seen or was seen prior to. And lastly, we have the requirements that is necessary for the staff. So the staff was actually is and was actually required to have the adequate training to ensure that they can deal, handle, monitor, and maintain the safety of the children. Again, you're dealing from children from birth all the way up to 5 years old. There's obviously a gap between the needs, what they want, how they're able to express themselves. So I actually worked in a fifth ward school, and I was actually able to see when those Head Start teachers and staff actually had to leave off campus to attend their meetings. This is important because I was actually able to see hands-on the importance or how seriously they took this training. And lastly, here I have my references, as you can see. Thank you so much for hearing about the Head Start Act of 2007. Have a blessed one.